Welcome to the Untold Civil War, and here it is, long awaited, my trip to Gettysburg for Remembrance Day 2022. Remembrance Day marks the anniversary of the Gettysburg Address, Lincoln's famous speech, and as my friend puts it, who is a reenactor, he says that this is sort of reenactor Civil War buff Christmas. It really certainly feels like that, coming around about the same time as all the holidays, and you're walking through Gettysburg with these quaint little historic buildings and architecture. It's really fun. It really is. And as you walk through this, you can't help but just really feel the spirit of the holidays. And you'll see a lot of markers on the buildings, marking certain buildings as Civil War buildings or historic buildings. And that all just adds to the atmosphere. Not just the historic stuff, but also the decorations. There's many businesses there, including this ice cream shop that is being guarded by Civil War sentinels or Civil War soldiers. So it's all over. You can't get away from the Civil War. One of my favorite stops to shop at is for the historian. They've got great miniatures there. I collect model soldiers, toy soldiers, so they've got that there. They've also got a great selection of books. It's a place I always stop by while I'm in town. Of course, if you're visiting Gettysburg, or when you're visiting Gettysburg, you might have friends and family who aren't necessarily into the Civil War, but there's something here for everyone. As I was walking through town, I saw the 1863 escape. Not something for me, but I'm sure, if you're here with your friends or you're just passing through with family and you've got kids, maybe you want to try something out like that. Here is the Gettysburg Olive Oil Company. Now, this is something that I did bring back from Gettysburg. That was my one little souvenir I brought back. They do some tastings there, and it's really nice to get some real nice olive oil. The Gettysburg Museum of History has got a really cool selection of Civil War artifacts as well as World War II artifacts. So if you're into World War II, there's stuff here for you too. Look at these helmets, absolutely stunning. They even got a couple items like this helmet in the forefront, and also a rifle coming up here. And I believe they were recovered from Omaha Beach. So that's all sea life growing on those weapons, which is fascinating. And then, of course, they've got some awesome stuff from the actual members of Easy Co. 101st Airborne Band of Brothers stuff. So that's really cool if you grew up watching that TV show. This next business is Paper Cartridges, run by Brett Gibbons. He's an Army officer. And what he does is he produces some really cool paper cartridges, blanks and live. So if you're into black powder muzzle loading and you need ammo, go to him. If you need blank cartridges for your next reenacting event, check him out. It's all period correct stuff. And he's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to ordnance and musketry, if you will, from the 19th century. So it's really great to walk into a store like that. Now, in the 1863 Gettysburg Inn, they did have a little bit of a show where our sponsors were there, and of course, we got to talk with them. So I'm going to let our sponsors share a few of the things that they were peddling during Gettysburg Remembrance Day. Thank you for having us here, and what do you have for our patrons today on your table?
I'm glad to have you here, Paul. So I've got a little bit of everything for pretty much anyone and everyone. So, of course, I've got my corps badges, metal, and also cloth, sewn and unsewn, painted, unpainted. Can also double as ID pieces, of course. Spread around that, I've got a lot of other things. Branch insignia, bone insignia for the corps badges, veterans insignia for post-war veterans groups. I've got plenty of graphic art magnets, all historically themed from original artwork or original pieces.
Show us some of those?
Sure.
Take them out?
So this has been the most popular of the day. My Civil War hardtack magnet and stickers.
Awesome.
But I've got other ones as well. So I have my USCT.
Very nice.
And of course, I've got plenty more, and again, they come from period artwork, from stationery, letter envelopes, because they put on a lot of patriotic themes on those back then. So now they're available to stickers, magnets to really put anywhere. But also, I have stuff for gaming for reenactors, cards, poker chips, my reverse checkers chessboards, flip the pieces, And the board advertises for me too, so of course I'm happy to sell one of those. And then of course my camp hats, pipes, ID badges.
Can you tell us what exactly is a camp hat? Maybe you can show us.
Certainly. So, ironically connected to a lot of USCT regiments, you find in period images of officers wearing hats like this. There's a few different names for it. A lot of people would think of it as a pillbox hat, but that's more of a turn of the century, late century, turn of the century, early World War I name. These were actually called toques in a lot of the examples. Garibaldi is the most famous. Giuseppe Garibaldi was a famous man who wore these. But you see images of Civil War officers wearing hats like this during the war and even in the post-war years. But I have them for enlisted men as well and civilian wear. Great, made out of wool, keeps your head warm at night. Good sleeping cap, smoking cap has a lot of uses. Can even use it as an oven mitt. But then, of course, I have my pipes, which I'm proud of because I carve these myself when I can. This one's a Freemason insignia with various Freemason symbols on it. But I always ask for a Freemason's dues card if you want to buy anything from me Freemason, just to make sure you're a member. But then I have others that are made by, other means, but still look the part for a general period pipe, even if this not as elaborate as this, but simply is the proper shape of a pipe at the time, which would be curved because straight pipes didn't come about until much later. But then, of course, I've got watch chains if you need a proper chain for your pocket watch at events, fobs to decorate the chain. I even have, right here, period watch keys. This was a reproduction made from an original that I had molded and cast. Doesn't really fit the watch, but at least it'll show the right period look. So. And then everywhere else, you've got something, just as interesting, but period correct, historical examples I found. My Bible flags. You would see civilians send, their loved ones in the military, flags to put in their books or Bibles. Usually I offer them with tassels, too, to hold your place, whatever book you're putting it in, but they work perfectly and they're really durable. And then also I have all my variety of signs out to advertise what I can make. I also have that I can paint your canteen if you want to make sure your canteen belongs to you if it ever gets misplaced or you just want it to look properly right for the event.
And you've got your toolbox right there, so everything is done by hand, right?
That's right. I'll put together a watch chain for you. I'll sew a core badge for you. I'll stamp an ID disc for you. So I try to make myself as available to my customers as I can for when I'm able to attend events.
Well, thank you so much for showing us what you have. And now I'm going to purchase some stuff, so I'm going to turn this off.
Thanks very much, Paul.
We're back at Remembrance Day for our second year, and it's great to be back with the Untold Civil War podcast. We did an episode earlier this year. What we're sharing today is we're sharing both what we do at Civil War Digital Digest with 8 years of videos every other week on Civil War history, and then this year with a different business partner, I started a second thing, and that is for history buffs in general, Civil War and otherwise. We started a streaming platform like many of the big players that you'll see where you can go watch any form of history that you want, whether it's a movie, whether it's a documentary, everything as far back as the 1st century all the way up to Afghanistan. We do an awful lot of stuff with Civil War, and that's called HistoryFix. You should give it a look. It's good to be back at Remembrance Day. We'll see you down the road.
All right, so those were our sponsors, the Badge Maker and Will Eichler from HistoryFix, Civil War Digital Digest. I will have links to their websites in the description so that you'll be able to access their wares. Great people, great stuff. Now, as you can see, the action is about to take place here. Here it is, the main event, the parade for Remembrance Day. Of course, leading the parade every year is the local police department's mounted unit, which is very impressive. I want to just give a quick shout out to the local police department. I guess that might be Gettysburg Police Department. They did a fantastic job of ensuring that we had a safe event. making sure that there were closures in place and that traffic could flow freely, as well as pedestrian traffic, and no one was harmed or injured. Here we have the Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War. They're the ones who organized this parade, and they are up front leading the parade. Now, amongst them, as you can see here coming up, is Ben Frail, good friend of the show, member of the Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War, and also part of the 2nd Rhode Island reenacting group. Looking great there, Ben. So from what I understand it, because Gettysburg is a Union victory, and because the Civil War was a Union victory, obviously, the Union regiments, reenacting regiments, Union organizations will always lead the parade. So we're going to see the Union pass by first in review, and then you will eventually see the Confederate reenacting groups passing in review second. Love the flags, love the music. We've got a young private up here up front. Love it because, guess what? Get them started while they're young. I think it's right about that age that we can all sort of remember when someone in our family, whether it was our parents, father, uncle, mother, sister, brought us to events like this, let us watch movies like Gettysburg, Glory, the Ken Burns documentary series, and we just fell in love with Civil War history and history as a whole. So love to see young people getting involved. Now, if you're watching this and wondering, wow, these uniforms look so authentic, so original. Well, let me tell you, reenactors spend a lot of money on these uniforms to get them to look right. As you can see, we had Abe Lincoln himself pass in review. That's fantastic. Here we have the USCTs. Very regimental. Right in step. Now, if you've never marched in a parade, I definitely recommend, if you get the opportunity, to take part, because I've participated in parades. I've been on both sides, right? I've watched parades, obviously, and I've marched in parades. And marching in a parade is a whole different experience than just watching one. It really is quite fantastic, especially when you have the crowd going and they're cheering for you. So if you have a chance to march in this parade, if you want to join a reenactment group, reach out to some local groups in your area, and they'll probably be able to participate in a parade like this. Now, when I shared some of my footage on Instagram, there were a bunch of people who recognized the different reenacting companies that were marching and giving them shout outs. So please keep that going. If you see your company marching, if you see your friend marching, you see your friend's company marching, leave a comment below. If you want to recruit in the comments below, go right ahead. Here we've got some artillery marching. We can tell they're artillery, I believe, from the shoulder scales as well as the red lining, red facing on their coats. And then, of course, on the guidon, I believe those are two cross cannons. Cross cannons on the slouch hat of the officer there. Again, artillery. And now we have the Union generals passing in review. Cigar clenched in his teeth. That's got to be Ulysses S. Grant. Now, upcoming, you'll see some members of the Irish Brigade, I believe, wearing boxwood in their forage caps. Now, I don't believe boxwood was worn in their forage caps during the Gettysburg campaign. I know it was worn at Fredericksburg. I know that the active unit of the Fighting 69th, the unit I served in, we wear boxwood in our uniforms when we lead the St. Patrick's Day Parade every year as a tip of the hat to those who made that charge at Fredericksburg. And the boxwood is shipped up from Fredericksburg. I believe these are members of the Invalid Corps. Really neat to see that. As you can see, pretty much whether it's artillery, infantry, pretty much every branch, even specific regiments, are represented by these reenacting groups. So if you're into a specific regiment, check it out online. There's probably a reenacting group you can link up with to portray the specific regiment or branch you want to portray. Now this is really cool. These are the Zouaves. Tyler was on the show. He's a good friend of the show. And what's funny is I had just put down my camera and I saw him and I waved at him. And he came out, gave me a big hug. And for a split second there, I realized what it was like to have a large burly Zouave NCO coming at you, about to give you a bear hug. And let me tell you, thank God he didn't have a bayonet fixed. Great to see Tyler. It was fantastic. Also got to see that mounted band ride through. That was very interesting. And here you have members who are representing, I believe, the Grand Army of the Republic, the veteran organization of the Civil War. And here we have the Johnny Rebs coming in, closing up the parade. Now the Johnnies brought with them plenty of banners, plenty of flags. Again, here's some Johnnies, and I believe they must be artillery again with the red facings. Of course, you gotta have the rebel yell in the background. And more artillery. Infantry coming up behind them in support. Long line of butternut and gray. And here, closing out the parade finally, of course, we've got our Confederate generals. Really great likeness, actually. But that was enough for the parades. So in the end, I got to close out the evening by attending the dinner with the Fighting 69th reenacting group. And here they have a special toast that supposedly dates back to the Civil War days. So I'll close out with that here.
For a long time that we learned from the 69th, including the traditional regimental toast. So I want to ask a couple people to come on up to help us. Paul, I know you're filming. You can pass it off to Kevin, because you're actually one of the only guys here that served in the real 69th. So you can come on up. Ed, you're an Army guy, so I want you to also participate here. And we have another Army guy here, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Sir? Army guard. Come on up. Active duty Air Force.
No, we're not talking about that service. We're still alive.
Well, we'll think Army Air Corps. Okay?
Army Air Corps will work, yeah. And when we take them back, they'll be better.
So we have these three gentlemen. We have these three gentlemen here, excellent veterans of our armed forces. Yeah, good. That's fine. So, for those of you who are new to our association, Thomas Francis Meagher was the creator of the Irish Brigade. He enjoyed what today we might refer to as adult beverages with great gusto. And his drink preferred was Irish whiskey with a little bit of Vichy water. And the problem is, in an active campaign, he couldn't find the Vichy water. And he sent an aide out to find it for him.
You have the Irish whiskey, but not the Vichy water. So we sent the 8 out, and 8 did not find Vichy water, which is kind of the equivalent of modern mineral club soda, or Perrier. So what they did find was champagne. It had bubbles in it. I guess it worked. So there was a mixture of the Irish whiskey and the champagne, and they put it together for General Marr. He tried it. It was, as we say in military circles, potable. And he described it to his liking, and that's a tradition the 69th carries on to this day. And so in honor of them, they're deployed now to West Africa. We keep that tradition alive. And so I'm going to ask these three gentlemen, we're going to start out with the Irish whiskey.
So again, I want to just thank the Fighting 69th, the 69th reenacting group here for hosting me, and I mean really just treating me like family. This was fantastic. It was a great way to close out the day, having a nice Irish dinner at a real Irish pub, the Gary Owen, and of course we're drinking the traditional toast here. So this was absolutely fantastic. Now, someone who was with me the entire time that didn't have a lot of camera time here was Ron Coddington from Military Images magazine. Now that being said, I have 2 separate videos coming out with him, so you're going to get your dose of Ron in the next videos. But I want to again thank everyone who watched this video. If you like this sort of content, please like, share, subscribe, share it with your friends, let people know about Untold Civil War. It was so fun to bump into some of my fans actually in Gettysburg at the time, so that was really a great time.
Hey, it's the best sound ever.
Now, coming up as well,
And the Air Force comes
for those of you who know, this is just the video content. Please check out my website for the podcast audio episodes, which are also very popular. And if you're not a patron on Patreon already, please check that out. You'll get to hear about my interviews before I interview the guests of my show. So you'll be able to submit questions. And as you can see here, you'll be submitted to win for Christmas during our Christmas raffle, Christmas/New Year's raffle, in the book WG, a signed copy, and an original Civil War CDV of a Union soldier. So please check that out and tune in next time for our next episode.